Hi guys, and welcome back to Is It Worth It Reviews. Today we are going to talk about the latest and also the greatest DAC from Topping, meaning it's their flagship. It costs around $900 and from the outside, as you can see, it looks exactly the same as the previous D90 SE or LE, which I reviewed, and LE is just a SE without MQA support and slightly more affordable. So you can see that from the outside it looks exactly the same. It's the same looks, same chassis, basically same connectivity at the back, which is not bad at all because the D90 SE and LE, they looked great, they were built great, the quality is exceptional, connectivity is exceptional, so that really didn't need any improvement. The thing that I am surprised didn't change at all is the monochromatic display in the front. Let me turn it on so you can see it. And this one is, as I said, monochromatic OLED display, the same one that was present on previous D90 Toppings. Which surprises me about it is that Topping introduced a newer color LCD display on their D70 range, like D70 Pro Octo and D70 Pro Sabre. And it's even slightly more functional and nicer to use because the menus are redesigned, things are more easily found, and you do not have to think about how to change filters or some things like that. But it is what it is, so let's keep talking about D90 III Sabre and some internal improvements that did happen. And that starts with the heart of every DAC, which is a DAC chip. In this case, Topping decided to use a Sabre flagship chip, 9039, I think it's the Pro version, and they are using two of them. Also, they brag about having a completely new and redesigned IV section, that's the output section that converts current to voltage, and also the rest of the circuitry got some improvements, so this is the best measuring Topping of all times, and if you're into that, it's actually one of the best measuring DACs of all times, no matter the price point and the brand. But if you want to talk about those kind of things and DAC specs more, you probably already know that this is not the channel for that. This is the channel where we talk about how does it sound and mainly how does it compare to everything else that you can buy at the same price point. So let's start. The good thing for all Topping fans is that Topping did not change its colors. It did not follow some trend and offered you some new and completely different tonality tuning. It's the same highly resolving, highly informative sound with tonally flat tuning and kinda leaner tonality. To start with the bassline is quite deep and punchy if it needs to be. If there's deep bass in the track, you'll hear it. It has decent energy, decent punch. It's a very lively sounding bassline. But the thing is that it's much more on the tidy and quick, speedy side of things. It's that grippy bass that starts and stops on a dime. It truly does that. But it doesn't have some warmth or fullness that it's not making the bass deeper, but many people prefer that sort of slightly padded bass line that makes you perceive bass line as being bigger and deeper and just you have more bass. And we don't have that here. Here we are talking about very quick to start, quick to stop bass response. And the same character translates to higher frequency spectrum. So of course the mid-bass, lower mid-range highs, everything is really quick and snappy. Tones come and go with great speed. And that makes for a very resolving sound that reveals plenty of details from the recording, no matter what frequency part and of the spectrum we are talking about. If it's the bass line, it's very nimble, very filled with inner tone texture. The same for the mid-range, same for highs that are quite extended, very informative, plenty of detailing, but everything is on that quick, speedy and leaner side of things. And if we are talking about tonal balance, like there is no lack of bass, or the highs are not too prominent, but just having that time domain speed where everything happens fast and then disappears fast makes for a slightly leaner sound. Because how we perceive things, how something is bold and juicy, is a function of both level but also time domain, how long it lingers in our system, a tone, a note. And if it disappears quickly, it makes for the sound that we perceive as speedy, quick, but leaner and a little bit more analytical. But we'll talk about that more a little bit later in the comparisons section. For now, what I wanted to mention is that we are talking about really decent sound staging. And if you compare it vertically with other toppings that are basically all more affordable than this one, there is no topping that has a better soundstage than this one. But all of them being Delta Sigma chips and this one being a Sabre DAC chip means that if you look at some other models from some other brands, some of them will have wider, bigger sound stages. For example, some SMSL DACs or Denafrip Series 2, which is the king of huge sound staging. DACs like those will have bigger, wider, deeper sound stages. But in the topping line, D90 III Sabre is as good as it gets with sound staging. It's not particularly huge, but it's not flat either. There is a decent sensation of depth and background darkness, and the separation is great, especially because this topping does what topping does great always with its pricier DACs. It outlines really clear and crisp edges. So the separation between one tone and the other tone, between one instrument and the other one, is really great, and there is the sensation of great clarity and cleanliness. But that is happening inside of just modest soundstage that doesn't go much beyond the width of your speakers. But I think that now we should start with comparisons. And first one was more affordable topping, D70 Pro Octo, that goes for $600 and this one is a really good DAC. When I reviewed it, I thought that it was maybe the best sounding topping DAC next to D70 Pro Sabre, and both of these D70s matched what previous D90 SE and LE could do. They were equally resolving, equally lively sounding, the soundstage was equally expensive. And if you compare D70 Pro Octo directly to D90 III Sabre, you'll definitely notice that D90 III Sabre is a cleaner sounding DAC. Now, D70 Pro Octo is a very clean sounding DAC on its own, but as I said, when you compare them directly, this one, D90 III, is cleaner sounding. There's even more clarity and separation and even darker background. And for one, that made me aware that it is an improvement over the previous D90 SE that was on the same level with this D70 Pro. Now, it also does have slightly more forward character than this Octo here. They have different DAC chips, and yeah, the circuitry also is slightly different and everything. So D70 Pro Octo does sound warmer. It has warmer bass line and mid bass, but it's also slightly muddier sounding compared to D90 III directly. And if you like your tones to be squeaky clean and really precisely outlined and crispy and as detailed as possible, you would prefer D90 III. Now, my next comparison was with SMSL SU-10, which comes from SMSL, of course, and it costs the same as D90 III. And when compared directly, you'll notice that SU-10 has warmer sound. It has fuller, warmer bass line, both deeper bass and upper bass, and that goes for the mid-range too. And it presents soundstage as a bigger, wider canvas. But that said, it also has a bit softer, a bit fuzzier edges. They're not as laser-focused clean as with Topping. So with Topping, we are talking about slightly smaller, more compact soundstage, but everything is drawn with a greater precision. And if you would make me choose, I do prefer how SU-10 sounds. That's more to my taste, that's also better suited for my own system, that, you know, my speakers has a lot of free room around them. They're far away from any walls, and they're monitors. They're really revealing and precise sounding. But if you, for example, had speakers closer to the corners or on a bookshelf, and lots of room-induced warmth and boom and echoes, you might easily prefer Topping, because with its quick start, quick stop bass line, it would sound grippier, tidier, more controlled in that kind of system. So think about that too. Just because I do prefer lusher and fuller bodied sound in the bass, mid-bass and the mid-range of SU-10, it doesn't mean that you would too. Also, that big sound stage, it's more easily observable if you have your speakers out in the free space more, because when they're closer to the wall, the sound stage compresses, and you might not notice that on SU-10, but that speed and clarity of Topping might be preferable. In the end, we are talking about two DACs that are of the same high tier. Two great DACs, just different tonalities and different preferences. Now, my last comparison is with Geshelli Labs J2S, which is fully upgraded with Sparkos op-amps inside and power supply, which is just a decent switching power supply, hifi iPower X. But all of this done to the Geshelli DAC, it's price comparable to Topping D90 III Sabre. And the comparison here is quite similar to the one with SMSL SU-10. Geshelli sounds fuller and smoother, and it has a really juicy tonality, and it has beautiful mid-range. Whereas Topping, it sounds leaner but speedier, quicker to some degree. Its vocals are equally detailed and very present, but not as full-bodied and as palpable and nice and juicy as with Geshelli. They're a little bit drier sounding. Sound stages are comparable in terms of width, but there is a better sense of three-dimensionality, like front to back. And I'm not talking only about the whole sound stage, but each individual instrument. If you have an acoustic guitar with its chamber, or just a singer singing with its chestiness, that dimension of each individual tone will be better conveyed with Geshelli Labs. So to put it simply, almost every instrument or vocal will sound smoother and more liquid-like, more juicy-like with Geshelli, and quicker and more factual and a little bit drier with Topping. But once again, preferring one or the other is a little bit a matter of taste. For me personally, and if you follow my channel at all, you already know that I do prefer Geshelli Labs here. To me, it sounds more natural. It has longer, nicer tone decay in time. If there is a string that is plucked, or just a cymbal crash or triangle, for example, it will resonate longer in time. Imagine a triangle and that zing sound. It will be like more spiky, zing, stop, with topping. And me personally, I prefer, and I think it's more natural. It has more natural flow what Geshelli is doing. But once again, I have to go back to that what I said when I compared topping and SMSL. If you have speakers close to your walls in a bookshelf, or any reason to have slightly bloomy and slightly not well-defined sound in your room, you may actually prefer this shorter decay, this quicker to start and quicker to stop sound of Topping D90 III Sabre. Once again, I do think that technically speaking and just looking at detail retrieval and checking boxes, these two DACs are on the same level. But my personal preference, my emotions go more toward Geshelli Labs. But I cannot overstress when performance of hi-fi gear is close enough, preferences and system matching and your room acoustics are much more important than you think while choosing which one would you prefer. And if you're not like a first-time buyer, this is one of the ways. If in the past you heard anything that was a bit warmer from SMSL or Chord Mojo 2 or DACs like Shit Modi Multibit, or anything on that warmer side, Geshelli Labs 2, and you said, wow, that is the sound that I really like, you would prefer Geshelli. If you, on the other hand, preferred throughout of your experience, your hi-fi journey, DACs that sounded like other toppings, or Gustards, not counting R26, which is R2R, but all of the other Gustards that are based on some sort of DAC chip, or Matrix audio DACs. DACs on that side are quick, resolving, very clear, crisp, they outline edges great, but they do not have much in terms of warmth and tone timbre. And if you're in that camp and you previously preferred that kind of sound, you would probably prefer Topping D90 III Sabre to Geshelli Labs this time too. So here's the conclusion. Topping D90 III Sabre is a great topping DAC, for better and for worse. And if you had any experiences with previous topping DACs and you liked their sound, you'll probably like the D90 III Sabre too, because to my ears it's the best sounding topping to date. If that kind of tonality and that kind of sound profile is not for you, if you heard it somewhere or tried it yourself and it didn't click with you, you wanted something different, then don't expect that D90 III will change that feeling and that opinion. And with that, I hope you liked this video. See you next time. Bye.